Sally sells seashells down by the Sally sells Alright, I think I'm ready. Hi, welcome back. If you have noticed, I got a globe. I think that is one of my favorite, probably one of my favorite additions lately to the background scenery of this place. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, today I want to talk about continuing education. One thing I learned, and one thing I realize now that, I'm a couple years down the road, I can look back and really think about, okay, what do I attribute a lot of, success to? Like, what actions that I took do I contribute a lot of success to? And it's continuing education, or one of them's continuing education, and I want to talk about that because even now and in years past, I found it very hard to prioritize continuing education. So essentially just prioritizing the idea of just always learning. I think it's easy to bury yourself in this hole of like, okay, now that I have my business, all I have to do now is work, and my revenue will go up. While that is necessarily true, there is a ceiling. And I think continuing education and always learning will help you get over these obstacles and through these hurdles to really allow yourself to reach your goal and have the freedom to do whatever you want, or to really live out your goal to its fullest potential. I say that the way I just did because in the last couple of years I had prioritized learning, one episode a week, sometimes two, of the Intentional Growth podcast, which it's not a marketing podcast. So I'm building a marketing agency, but it's not a marketing podcast. It's a business podcast. And the best way I can describe it is it helps business owners and entrepreneurs really think about and turn their business into an asset. So rather than just a job, it's an asset and can continue to operate whether you as the business owner steps back or not. And why I like that show, the host, he's my mentor, and so obviously I love it. But why I take the effort to even put that in a video is because even though it's not a marketing podcast and I'm not necessarily growing my skill set in marketing, I'm growing my skill set in business. And what I really want to do at the end of the day is work on businesses and not just marketing companies. Yes, I started a marketing company with a couple of skills, sold the skills in exchange for money, but as time goes on, I want to build a business, not just a job. And there is that fine line, and with the Intentional Growth podcast, it's I'm learning how to do that, or I've learned how to do that. And now all it is action. If all I did was listen to marketing shows as my continuing education, I wouldn't understand that concept of how to take a business, turn it into a machine, and whether I'm there or not, it would still make money, and the people working in the company will still be able to feed their families. That's the difference. How this can be actionable for you as the watcher or the listener or however you're consuming this is if you're interested in something, and I'm going to use my context where it's I'm interested in business. I found it super helpful to just pick a very broad show almost where it's just business as a whole. So they talk about sales, they talk about marketing, they talk about financials, operations, some stuff at a high level you might not be interested in, but you will have to understand if you're trying to grow a company. And another thing with these high level shows, even if you watch them every single day, some days you're just not going to learn a thing, or that's how it worked for me. But it's the fact that that saying, you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself the most with. Some days or some weeks even, I don't even surround myself with 5 people, much less people that are in the business space. So listening to this podcast, the Intentional Growth podcast, worst case scenario, I'm listening to high level business professionals talk about what I'm interested in. And that does something, because then as time goes on, I've even built my own philosophies on how I think a business should grow. Because some episodes I'll agree with the guest, and some episodes I won't. And I think that's super beneficial because now I have values around how I think a company should operate. And I think that's super valuable in itself. So even worst case scenario, and I don't walk away with something from an episode, I have bettered my way of thinking about business. I think it's important to always keep learning. And I think it's super beneficial to kind of find this one show and just pick apart all the content that they release. And then, sometimes like with some episodes, you won't take away a nugget or you won't take away anything you can put into action tomorrow. And that's okay because it will improve your way of thinking to whatever you're working on, project, business, whatever. The final thing I want to plant is some of the shows that I have found the most value in, and I'm talking about podcasts right now, but some of the shows I have found the most value in are not the biggest shows. They're the smaller ones that still have very high quality guests on them. So like with business podcasts, the ones on the top 100, I typically don't ever listen to. I listen to the guys kind of in the middle that are still trying to bump themselves up the ranks. And so they're just giving each and every episode everything they got and bringing in like these high quality guests that have stories that you haven't heard before, because these top level, like these top of the chart podcasts, they just bring in these Fortune 500 CEOs or these serial entrepreneurs that have crazy success. But not everybody, needs to learn from those guys. Some people just need to learn from the guys in the middle that have found happiness, wealth, and also meaning in their life, but haven't necessarily made it to like Forbes. You know what I mean? So I think that's like the sweet spot, is finding these shows of people that will give away all the information for free just because they feel like it's part of their mission. I think that's the best place to build your ideologies on how business should work, based on these people that are honest. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the video. Is continuing education is very hard to prioritize, but if you do it, like, everything will kind of compound. So the more I listen to the Intentional Growth podcast, I now know how to turn a business into an asset. I essentially just have to go out and do it. Which, if I listen to a marketing podcast day in and day out, I won't know how to do that. And worst case scenario, you listen to people that are in your industry that have done it for longer than you have, and you kind of just surround yourself with those people. And I think that's worth an hour or two a day. So that's the video.